My name's Maria, and I worked at Innovate Solutions for 7 years. 7 good years, mostly, until everything went sideways. Innovate wasn't huge, maybe 80 people spread across 3 floors of a decent office building downtown. We made specialized software, the kind of stuff that doesn't make headlines but runs quietly in the background for big companies, logistics, inventory management, that sort of thing. It was stable work, paid okay, and the people were mostly nice. We had potlucks, awkward birthday celebrations, the usual office stuff. It felt like a work family, I guess. Flawed, sure, but familiar and comfortable. Our CEO was Mr. Sterling, Richard Sterling. He was smooth, always dressed impeccably, sharp suits, expensive watch, big smile that somehow never quite reached his eyes. He could talk anyone into anything. He'd give these big speeches at company meetings about growth, synergy, disrupting the market, lots of buzzwords. We mostly rolled our eyes, but figured he knew what he was doing because the company seemed to be doing well. New clients, fancy office upgrades. He drove a ridiculously expensive car that always seemed out of place in our modest parking lot. Looking back, that should have been a bigger clue. And then there was Ben. Ben Carter. He was one of our senior coders. The word quiet doesn't even begin to cover it. He was like a ghost in the machine, both literally and figuratively. He'd sit at his desk in the corner, headphones perpetually on, just typing away. Tall, thin guy, probably mid-30s, always wore the same rotation of gray or dark blue, t-shirts and jeans. He rarely spoke in meetings, and when he did, it was usually a short technical point that cut right through the fluff. He wasn't unfriendly, just contained. If you asked him for help, he'd pause, blink slowly like an owl, and then patiently explain whatever complex thing you were stuck on in the simplest terms possible, never making you feel dumb. He was brilliant. Everyone knew it. The systems he built were elegant, efficient, almost invisible because they just worked. He was the backbone of our core product. I wasn't a coder. I was in project management, so I worked with Ben's team a lot. I'd bring him project requirements, timelines, endless questions from clients. He'd just nod, take the notes, and somehow, magically, the features would appear, usually ahead of schedule and cleaner than expected. We had a sort of comfortable silence between us. I learned not to fill the space with nervous chatter. Sometimes I'd find a really good dark chocolate bar on my desk the day after a particularly stressful deadline we'd met. No note, nothing. But I knew it was Ben. That was just his way. Things started feeling off about a year before. The end. Mr. Sterling got louder, more boastful. There were closed-door meetings with people in suits I didn't recognize. Rumors started circulating about big investments, maybe selling the company. Sterling dismissed them with a wave of his hand, saying it was just strategic partnerships. But he seemed stressed, jumpier. And he started clashing with Ben, subtly at first. Ben had raised concerns about a new tracking module Sterling wanted integrated urgently for a major client. Ben said the security protocols were flimsy, that it opened us up to potential breaches. He wrote a detailed report. Sterling apparently brushed it off in a meeting, told Ben to just make it happen, and focused on the potential revenue. I remember seeing Ben after that meeting. He looked troubled, more withdrawn than usual, which was saying something. He just stared at his screen, hands hovering over the keyboard, not typing. Then, one Tuesday morning, it happened. Sterling called Ben into his glass-walled office. We couldn't hear anything, but we could see. Sterling was doing most of the talking, gesturing emphatically. Ben stood there, still as a statue. Then Ben just nodded slowly, turned, and walked out. He went straight to his desk, didn't look at anyone, gathered his few personal items, a worn sci-fi paperback, a Rubik's Cube, a little potted cactus, put them in his backpack, and walked out of the building. No goodbyes, nothing. HR sent out a bland email an hour later. Ben Carter is no longer with Innovate Solutions. We wish him well in his future endeavors. Just like that. 7 years of work, the guy who built half our infrastructure, gone without a whisper. People were stunned, confused. We asked our managers what happened, but they just shrugged, looking uncomfortable. The official line was restructuring, but nobody believed it. Ben wasn't redundant. He was essential. The rumor mill went into overdrive. Did he quit? Was he fired? Why? Someone whispered that Ben had discovered something about Sterling's finances, maybe creative accounting related to the new partnerships. Someone else said Sterling just didn't like being questioned by a lowly coder. We never got a straight answer. I felt terrible. I tried emailing Ben's personal address a few days later, just to see if he was okay. The email bounced back. Address unknown. It was like he'd vanished off the face of the earth. The weeks after Ben left were weird. Sterling seemed relieved, almost cheerful. He hired a couple of flashy new coders who talked a good game, but couldn't hold a candle to Ben's quiet competence. Things started slipping. Deadlines got missed. Weird bugs cropped up in the systems Ben used to maintain. Glitches nobody could quite figure out. Sterling blamed it on the transition, told everyone to work harder. The atmosphere grew, tense. People started updating their resumes. That comfortable work-family feeling, it was gone. Replaced by anxiety and distrust. Sterling, meanwhile, seemed oblivious. He leased another floor in the building, talking about expansion. He bought himself another new car. He threw a lavish company party at a ridiculously expensive hotel, complete with ice sculptures and champagne. It felt grotesque. We were struggling to keep basic systems running, and he was living like a king. Some of us murmured about it, but what could we do? He was the CEO. The collapse didn't happen slowly, then suddenly. It happened suddenly. It was a Thursday morning. I came in, grabbed my coffee, sat down at my desk. My computer wouldn't log in. Network error. I looked around. Everyone was having the same problem. The IT guys were running around like headless chickens. Then the phones went dead. Then the website went down. Complete paralysis. We sat there for hours, speculating. Was it a hack? Ransomware? Sterling was apoplectic, yelling into his cell phone, which still worked somehow. By lunchtime, the rumor wasn't just a rumor anymore. It was being pieced together by frantic IT staff and whispers from finance. Someone, somehow, had gotten deep inside our systems. Not just the operational ones, but the financial ones too. Client accounts, payroll, our company bank accounts, everything. And it wasn't just accessed, it was wiped, corrupted. Money had been transferred untraceably to offshore accounts. Critical data was deleted or scrambled beyond recovery. Client contracts gone. Financial records gone. Our core software code, the crown jewels Ben had spent years building, parts of it were irrevocably damaged. It was sabotage. Deliberate, methodical, and utterly devastating. And who had the skill, the knowledge, the access to do something like this? The IT director, pale and sweating, finally admitted it. They found traces, digital fingerprints left deep in the server logs. It pointed back to a hidden access point, a backdoor built into the core system. A backdoor only one person could have realistically created and hidden so well. Ben. The silence in the office was deafening. People just stared at each other, horrified. Ben? Quiet, harmless Ben? The guy who left chocolate bars on desks? It didn't make sense. But then, more pieces started emerging. Someone in finance, speaking anonymously now that the ship was clearly sinking, mentioned irregularities they'd seen months ago. Things Sterling had told them to ignore. Huge sums of money, moving around suspiciously. Money that seemed to line up with Sterling's lavish spending and these strategic partnerships. The theory quickly formed. Ben must have stumbled upon Sterling's corruption. Maybe he tried to blow the whistle internally, or maybe Sterling just suspected he knew too much. Firing him was Sterling's way of silencing him. And Ben hadn't just walked away quietly. He'd left a time bomb. Or maybe he activated something he already had in place, a kill switch he built long ago just in case. Maybe he felt justified. Maybe he felt betrayed not just by Sterling, but by all of us for letting it happen, for not standing up for him. Or maybe he was just broken by the unfairness of it all and lashed out in the most destructive way he knew how. We'll never know his exact reasons. He was gone, disappeared. The aftermath was brutal. Innovate Solutions declared bankruptcy within a week. 80 people lost their jobs overnight. We didn't even get proper severance because the accounts were dry. Clients sued us or what was left of us. The fancy office furniture was sold off at auction. Mr. Sterling was arrested. Fraud, embezzlement, a whole list of charges. Seeing his picture in the news, that smug look finally wiped off his face, replaced by shock and fear. It didn't bring any satisfaction. It just felt like another layer of sadness. His greed, his corruption had set everything in motion. He'd ruined lives, including his own. But Ben, I have such mixed feelings about Ben. Part of me feels this profound sense of pity for him. He was wronged, badly. Sterling likely ruined his career prospects, smeared his name internally. And maybe Ben saw the company he'd poured his life into being looted by a crook. Maybe his actions felt like justice, in a twisted way. But the other part of me, the part that saw my colleagues crying as they packed their desks, the part that worried about paying my own rent, the part that knew good people who had families to support were now struggling. That part feels angry. So angry. He didn't just punish Sterling. He punished everyone. He burned the whole house down, taking all of us with it. He used his brilliance, the very thing we admired, as a weapon against us. I lost my job. I lost my savings trying to stay afloat while looking for work. I lost that sense of community, flawed as it was. We scattered, the Innovate family, just wreckage floating away from a ship sunk by two men, one driven by greed, the other, maybe, by revenge disguised as justice. It's been a couple of years now. I landed on my feet eventually, got another job. But it's different. I'm more cautious now, less trusting. Sometimes late at night I still think about Ben. Was he watching somewhere, seeing the chaos he created? Did he feel vindicated? Or did he feel regret? I picture him sitting somewhere, maybe in a small bare room, just him and a computer screen, the same quiet intensity in his eyes. But I don't know what he's thinking. Nobody ever really knew what Ben was thinking. And that silence, in the end, was the loudest thing of all. It was the silence before the storm that wrecked everything.